So drum industry news, this is where we highlight things in the drum industry side of things. Sometimes it's retail, sometimes it's, just things that people don't know that much about or don't have that much experience with. Today we're going to be talking about something that I know you have a lot of experience with that Sean and I don't have as much hands-on experience with, but we have the retail side of things because we deal with these people. Drum industry news, we're going to be talking about drum techs and being a tech on the road, what techs need, our interactions with guys that are like, hey, I'm down here at the Chameleon Club and I need, which happens all the time, and riders and all sorts of things like that. So, I want to talk about your experiences, first of all, of your tech experiences. I know you've tech for some pretty major drummers, too.
Yeah, I've been very lucky to tech for, I did some work with Stuart Copeland, who was a big hero of mine.
Me too, yeah, totally.
Still is, and
Yeah.
he was great. He knows what he wants. He has his signature sound. The teching thing started out for me kind of by accident. It started locally,
Okay.
just back home in Ireland.
Yeah.
Helping a friend, then helping a friend in his band, then helping a friend in the hall, and then kind of went to more serious stuff. And we have a bunch of festivals, and first they need some gear. There's always a gear issue.
Right.
And we talked about my gear, so they weren't getting my gear. So we got backline companies, and then
Stuart Copeland's like, can I borrow your drum set? You're like, no!
he actually did. Would you believe he used my stands?
Did he?
So yeah.
Okay.
So that was pretty cool.
There is a line where you're
Yeah,
like,
there's a line.
You're like,
Say
all
no to
right,
them.
you qualify. I
He
guess.
used all my hardware
That's
on
cool.
the
That's
Letterman show.
Not your buddies from high school. No, you're not letting
Yeah,
them.
no,
have your
they're
stuff.
not getting that. You've only one kit, right?
Yeah,
when you
right.
start out, so
Yeah.
no, there was none of that. So going to so many shows, I would go early. To concerts, and I would hang out and watch these guys, and sometimes talk to them. And you really didn't. It was very taboo then. You didn't get backstage, and I would try and get to the side field.
Right.
So that it didn't happen that way. It happened with kind of Irish festivals.
Okay.
And being hands-on and simple stuff, setting up a bunch of them. And then it was like, front of house would say, well, to the drummer, we tune it. And it was kind of one incident where, I said, I'll tune it for you if you like. And so there's a very quick story about my tuning experience. So it's real quick. I bought a recording custom, a Yamaha recording custom.
Okay.
And I remember we were all standing in the doorway waiting for it to arrive. It arrived. I took it out of its boxes. I gigged with my dad for 10 years, so that was a big experience. So it was 4:00, and I was to be in the van by 6 with this new kit.
Oh my gosh.
So I took it out of its boxes, and we spoke earlier. I had a Power V before that. You have one downstairs for
Yeah.
sale,
That's neat.
and I liked them. And but I was getting a little bit better at drums, and I had a more better
Expensive
ear,
taste.
expensive taste, expensive ear. And I, watching people like Dave Weckl and all these guys and Vinny, and I was getting a really good perception of at least what that kit could do.
Right.
Not to mention, of course, they're using amazing microphones and stuff. These are the
And they're
things you
amazing
don't,
drummers.
and they're amazing drummers, and you don't know this, but
Right.
anyway, I had 8 through to 16, took it out of its boxes, tuned it up, wasn't too bad. Spent about an hour, and I'm like, wow. And my drumming changed, like in that hour. However, what did this guy do? I tuned it all down. Now we're 5:00. I tuned it all down again because I could get it back to where it was. I did not get it back to where
Oh
it was.
no.
I was
You're
16
running out of time.
Yeah, I was a teenager, and I was like, I am going to learn this, and I'm going to be a black belt in it because this is a problem. And I spent the whole gig
Oh, my.
with my dad that night. The kick drum sounded good, but the toms just
couldn't
just
dial
wrong.
'em in.
Off. Yeah, no, because I got overconfident in myself, not the kid. It wasn't the kid's fault.
Yeah.
It sounded beautiful through the register when I did it the first time in my drummer. My dad built me a drum studio at the back of our property, and I was sweating.
Yeah.
And I cased it up. I had cases, put it in it. Oh, he said, "Are you really happy with your kit?" And I went,
Wow.
And so that was a definitive moment when I said,
And
I need to learn this. There was nowhere in the 80s you could go to learn how to tune. There was video cassettes. There was nothing online. They spoke about it in magazines, but you couldn't hear.
Yeah.
You had to hear the difference. You had to have the control of out of tune snare drum, in tune snare drum. And we could all crank up a snare,
Right.
but it isn't tuning. You're
Right.
just choking the snare. So that was the start of my tuning experience. So by the time this person needed a kit tuned for an open air festival, it was a 4-piece kit. I remember it was a Pearl Masters, and they put a bunch of great microphones on it. They're pushing a lot of air. They're subs.
Yeah.
And the guy does this to me. I think I was like 21 or something. He said, "Come here," and he said, "I might have some work for you," And that's
Yeah.
kind of the. It's still not teching, because I'm not.
Yeah.
I'm not looking after the guy's wedge. I'm not looking after. I'm not even carrying the drums at this stage.
Right. You're
But-
setting up. You're just setting up.
I'm setting up, and a lot of the time, to be honest, I wasn't setting up. It'd say, "This guy's going to come." Everything. He'd say, "I'll have it set up for you, and you just tune them for me." And I would do the sound check.
Wow.
And I loved it, and I got better and better at it. And then I would
Yeah.
offer a tuning service locally. But I mean, I had a few nightmares, as you do. I'm like, oh man, this is not.
When you're doing that,
Mm-hmm.
do you use any types of gauges or anything else like that?
You
Or do you
know,
just do it by feel and ear? And
Feel and
okay,
ear, I
okay,
know,
cool.
and I think some of the tension watches and some of these things are have a place.
Yep.
But I've always just done it for ear all this time, so I would say to people to have a look at that stuff, invest in it. I was part of a project where we did do one of the first apps,
Okay.
and sadly it got challenged and we had to pull it down, but it was very successful.
Oh.
And actually, Stuart, my tunings, because I ended up owning the Letterman kit, as we call it, my tunings were on that. And you could purchase the tuners for $1.99 or something.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I mean, that's about 10 years ago, 11 years ago. And how far have we come?
Right.
Where the interest was there. I didn't say,
Yeah.
let's do an app. I just said, let's just educate.
Yeah.
That's where I was at. I wasn't
That's where
trying to make...
That's where you got to start. I
Yeah.
mean, with your intent really matters, especially with that kind of world. But yeah, no, we don't use any gauges or anything here.
No,
Right.
We'll sell them to people if they want to get
sell
them.
'em,
Sure.
and I
And-
have used it.
Yeah.
But it's just so much. And I've tuned so many drums over the years coming into the shop.
I'm
I could
sure.
and putting together drums and doing all. I could just do it. I just feel it.
That's great.
And I just
Yeah.
have that touch. And I remember a nice compliment years and years ago at the Chameleon Club when I would play there. It was a club downtown here. Don't look for it; it's not there anymore. But
Right.
it was the premier
not
club
there.
in Lancaster.
gone.
All the big bands played there. I've even opened up for quite a few big bands that toured and came through.
Excellent.
But I remember, it was one of my first times playing there in my early 20s, and the sound guy was like, "Finally, somebody that knows how to tune their kit." I still remember.
And you were on
I was like,
That's great.
cloud nine.
Yeah.
And it's still rare enough. And what's important for your viewers and drummers who are starting, drummers who are doing it decades, it's okay.
Yeah.
I have a tuning service back where I am, and you can either drop the drums off, I can come to you, time permitted, or I can work for you in studio or at your session or, hey, your church, whatever it is. But it's okay.
Right.
And I need to I need to work on that more and let them know it's okay. No matter where you are in the world, find someone that can,
Yeah.
it's okay.
Yeah.
Because actually, none of us were told how to do it.
right.
Or even how to set up a drum kit.
Yeah.
We spoke about earlier, your
that's what
bike
I-
kit,
yeah.
figured
it's
it
not
out.
set up for you.
I know. That's what I'm actually doing.
It's okay.
You're going to be doing a master class later this year.
Oh, yeah,
So
yeah.
if people like kind of stuff you're saying, you're going to be doing a master class. But creative confidence behind the kit. We're going to set up a kit. It's going to be amazing. The first one is me doing
Excellent.
one on the drum set. And it's going to be literally setting up a drum set, learning
Love
the
it.
anatomy of it, taking it apart, putting it together, tuning. And the tuning section, here's spoilers for anyone that's coming, the tuning section is not going to be a sheet of paper and here are the directions, because that's not what it's like. We're going to hit a drum, we're going to listen to it, we're going to start with even tension, and we're going to adjust. The top head, the bottom
Love
head,
it.
what does that do? Very basic information, because I think what people need is really, they don't need a step-by-step guide. Every drum's different. Every room responds differently. You need to be
Yeah.
able to hit the drums wherever you're about to play them
Yeah.
and adjust.
And I was
Yeah.
going to say that about your Yamaha kit too. Your dad had built this nice, beautiful studio, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure that you put that drum set in that studio and played it. The room had a lot to do with it too.
You know,
'cause it
environment
sounds
has a lot to
good.
do with
And
it.
the-
Yeah.
I'm sure there's foam or something. It's very acoustically
Well,
sound.
we didn't soundproof it, but you
Okay.
got walls, they reflect or they dampen, and
Yeah.
you're at a hall. And
Yeah, different.
You sound check it, and the bass drum's big, and all.
Yep. Yeah.
And it feels great, and you're there on your own. 600 people come in, 100 people come in.
Now it's different.
Things change.
Yep.
And I know many of the world's top techs, and I really respect them because they have multiple challenges of humidity and
Yeah.
traveling and something missing,
Oh my
not showing
gosh.
up, and they've got to really work hard. Excuse me, in the last minute before opening,
Yeah.
and I learn a lot from that because I'm like, how did you overcome that?
Mm-hmm.
And they talk about making something at the last minute. Some of these guys are very electronically savvy.
Yeah.
They're soldering modules backstage.
Yeah.
I'm not that guy.
Yeah.
I would like to think I'm very competent at tuning and sound and applications and microphones, and there's all these, I don't want to say levels, but there's definitely distances between the audience. There's stages maybe, or stepping stones of distance between hitting the snare and the guy, the 80,000 person at the back of the stadium. I mean, you got delay towers, you got all sorts of things happening, but it comes back to source.
Right.
Okay, got a drum kit, and now we're in a bar, and how are we going to make this work? Because we've got a person sitting there, we're in a stadium, it's there. I mean, I learned a lot from, I'd like to mention him, Jeff Seitz, who's Stuart's #1 guy. I call him the ghost in the machine.
Yeah.
He kindly invited me during the police reunion tour to be around them, and I mean, he's been with him since the start,
Yeah.
since Synchronicity and stuff.
And his evolution of
Before.
how he's taken his career
It's phenomenal.
doing that is incredible.
He's
And
phenomenal.
you learn so much along the way.
Yeah, Jeff. Jeff, I call him the ghost in the machine. It's just, it's he's getting the same sound every night that Stuart wants.
Right.
And Stuart walks out, and there's never any lack of confidence.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Sammy Sullivan, who worked with Larry, I used to say, Larry does this famous walk into the drums, and he sits down, and it's like he's just sitting down to have dinner. That's his confidence in his tech.
Yeah.
Wow.
And you'll see Sammy
Yeah.
just puts his ears in, and it's off. And they're a high production band, U2.
Right.
So no matter what the production is, or who the band is, or what level, it's important. That's another thing.
Yeah.
It's okay not to be able to do it, and find someone who can,
Yeah.
who truly can,
Yeah.
and they want to,
Right.
and they want to help you be the best. Sometimes for us techs, I might want you to sit a different way because I know it would be better for you. Well, you're kind of doing someone's corner too. If that's the way he wants to sit, unless there's an opportunity for you to say to me, what do you think? Am I, you have to be careful with that too. And that's not even the correct word. You just got to be professional.
Yes.
Whereas I know his hips are too, whatever, or
Right.
he's too much over the kit.
And
or-
he knows that you know.
Maybe, I don't know. I mean, guys, we're all comfortable. It's like driving a car. It's
Yeah.
ergonomics.
There's something about that student-teacher relationship where you have that in person. I can see what you're doing, and you're not realizing it.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's also that that trust has to be established first before they're going to even
Yeah,
hear
I
you
learned
out.
not to say it.
Yeah.
And
Don't say it unless it comes up.
I
right?
mean well in everything I do, and I want to say it. And, we've talked, I want to say it.
Mm-hmm.
And if it means you're just going to be better, but then there's the professional aspect, and you don't want, hey, he's a bit to play. And everybody has a different disposition.
Sure.
That's
you,
a
you
whole.
mentioned that right before he's going to play, and now he's self-conscious.
it's
It
not
might
good.
throw him off his game.
Yeah.
It's not good.
Yeah.
So even though you mean well, it could be a
Right.
whole other podcast, mindset,
Right.
how you help a drummer at any level. At any level.
Oh, for sure. I
because
still
they
get
want
into
to
my
have
own
confidence.
head, you know?
But if
That-
they've got confidence in their sound, it really helps.
Right.
You see their
Absolutely.
spirit lifted.
Yeah.
That's
That's it. And they, like you said, there's something about. Wow, we need to have a documentary on drum techs, and it should be called
Yeah.
something like the walk out to stage or something, because that is really the moment
Yeah.
where they have that
You
confidence.
should share. You'll find it on YouTube.
Yeah.
I'll send it to you.
Okay.
Larry's walk on.
Yeah.
And I did have a recording of it because I was there. I had a BlackBerry and it's gone, but you'll find it. There is other,
Okay.
and he just walks on, and it's just whether you like the band U2 or not, just the drummer walking out like that and sitting on the kit, it's quite the moment,
Yeah.
and the audience has some drummers in the audience, but doesn't have as many as we'd like. And
Right.
they're watching this, and it's epic. But the confidence he has in Sammy, he just sits down and starts the show. That's when everybody's done.
Absolutely.
It's just a magic moment.
Yeah. Let me ask you about this, because I've seen it different ways. I just recently saw Max Weinberg's rig rundown thing with his stuff, and he's got like pedals that activate lights over here because Springsteen likes the stage to be like nothing except the band on it, which I love that look and that
Old school,
that
yeah.
production. But then I've seen other backstage things where like say like Suckerman's playing and like if he turns around, his tech's head is right here if he needs something. When you tech for other people, how did you communicate and what was the setup?
Excuse
the
me.
differences in the setup like for
Well-
your access once the show started? Because I think that's a really unique thing, especially when guys are playing on bigger arenas or something where the stage is different.
Yeah, I mean it's black. It's you're in the dark.
Yeah.
And I remember the first time doing something at this big venue in Dublin. I didn't have a mag light.
You're sitting in the
I
dark.
thought I was so organized, and I
The
saw.
one
I guess
thing, the flash, the light.
the light, just and just things, whether it's tape or gloves. I mean, I remember not having gloves once, and you feel disconnected because I'm just again it's back to being tactile and being able to do things efficiently. But to answer your question, I did beat on the street or something like that in Dublin. I mean, again, it was an accident. I was just in this music store in Dublin. Somebody said they didn't say drum tech. They said our roadie has gone missing. So I happened to be, and I shouldn't have been. I think I was skipping school or something. I should not have been in this music store in Dublin. But I find myself in these places, and I said, without even really hearing what he said, I think I thought he said he needed a drummer. I said, I'll do it. And everybody just looked over at me. Well, they're all in retail. This has to happen now. Oh, I know what it was. It was a place called Phoenix Park. It's almost like our Central Park. There was a blues gig or a Budweiser sponsored concert. These are things I would go to.
Yeah.
So I think I was 19 or something. I said, I'll do it.
You're like, I'll be there.
Maybe I was a bit younger.
Also, what do
if
you
I
need me to
skipped
do?
school. Yeah, so it was roadie. So it was
Got
get
it.
the drums. It was all hard work.
Yeah,
It was
yeah.
get the drums across this field onto this. Because when you build a stage in the middle of a field, there was not a stage there. Now there's a stage there. So it's not that glamorous. Especially in the late 80s. They're propping it up with pieces of wood, and I'm looking. I said, I've been to gigs. I thought gigs were all glamour, but, all these
Those are
guys
the
have got
unsung heroes, man.
all these
Totally.
guys had ponytails, and I just looked so out of place. I really did. I showed up in jeans and a shirt, I think. I did not look like... But, I mean, I don't want people to misunderstand. It was pure passion why I got there, not overconfidence. But I knew when I got there, I was out of my depth. But I set the kid up. I was a Yamaha. It came from a backline company called Wilman Lane. Right, are you the roadie? Yeah, but everyone was real gruff, and there's riggers and there's all sorts. I don't even know if my parents don't know half these stories, but yeah, and
You're like way out of your
Yeah.
element. You
I'm
know?
way out of
Yeah.
my element. Way
Yeah.
out. Now I knew I could play.
But you-
I was already a okay player,
Right.
and I knew how to handle stuff, and I'm very respectful. You give me your drum, well,
Right.
somebody else is gonna die if they mark your drum.
Right.
I'm your bodyguard for
You're
your drum.
responsible. You take on that responsibility.
I love it,
That's-
but
that's why you
I
kept getting
didn't
gigs.
have the lingo. I didn't have the slang or the jargon. It was a mixture of British
yeah.
and American and South African crew. I always remember that, and
Oh,
some Irish.
interesting.
And it's just that they knew each other,
Yeah.
and they worked for different companies. They were all great people, but they're busy. They've got their head down, and that's an important thing. If you want to get into it, these are great questions. So the drummer, fortunately, he didn't really know what he wanted, and then we kind of come up with. I said, well, I'll stand here behind this big wedge monitor, and it was a day gig that I was actually going to go to anyway.
That's
And
funny. And here
So-
you are
You
working
are
it.
on stage.
I did his set. I wasn't even on. It's not even really on stage.
You're just
it was
there.
Yeah, because remember they just built this thing in the middle of a
Right,
field.
right.
I mean, it's cooler than I'm saying, but I'm just trying to be real with you. And yeah, these guys had cut shorts and tactical boots and ponytails and carbines, and I had nothing. I had this like
Jeans and a
Levi's
t-shirt.
shirt. I think it was a Levi's shirt. I'm a summer dude, and in these jeans and Nikes. Oh, I'm gonna get my Nikes dirty, but I got stuck in. I mean, I wasn't a fool either. I'd already been gigging 3 to 5
Sure.
nights a week with my dad. Lots of people wanted me to play for them, and I was saving up for cases, and I was bringing my my gear around the Golf GTI 2. Hundreds of gigs. So I knew how to get there and do something. So he said, I saw the set taped to the floor, and then it said, guy comes out and speaks. I'm like, what is this? So the guy was going to come out and go, welcome to summer,
Right.
1989 or something. This festival
Yeah.
for the summer. I went, okay, so he's going to speak. So I started to learn, water breaks and pee break, different things, how a
different
schedule runs
Yeah.
on a stage. And it was, like I say, it was rough and ready, but I looked at him and, okay, got it. Because I had sets with my dad, but it was just a set of songs.
Right. Now you're getting the background of what goes into the show behind the
That's
scenes.
more of a production.
That's a production. That's a better word for it.
Yeah,
The
and
whole
then-
9 yards.
This drummer didn't sing or anything like that, but then the band were going to stand up and do. I'm like, what is this?
There's cues and all kinds
They
of
were
stuff.
going to do like an Irish type of thing, and it worked out. I got the drums to sound good, so the communication thing was literally just he dropped a bunch of sticks. The floor tom did this a few times. It was easy, really, but we learned to just not to be too obvious with it. But
Yeah.
as time goes on, that all that stuff it's in the ears and there's signals and
Yeah.
I know guys that have worked for Mike Portnoy and he knows what he likes to have backstage and it's great that they know.
Right.
Some people like shiny cymbals and some people like rituals before going on, and
It's
they
all
like
important.
they like a particular thing.
It's all about getting into your head. You
I
know?
remember just it's not a tech
Your
thing,
zone.
but I remember being at a Dave Weckl clinic and he does all his own sound and
Okay.
everything. And all he asked for was at that particular time, and I mean if Dave sees this, I have a lot of respect for Dave. I've studied with Dave. I just love him. If he remembers, it was in Europe and he just asked for a beer. On his rider, it's just a beer and a plate of mixed sandwiches. And he teched for himself. And actually, he did it. Another brief story. He did a clinic in Dublin, and a friend of mine says, "I'm gonna be teching for Dave." I said, "No, you won't."
Oh my
'Cause I
God.
know him really well.
Right.
I know he's drumming well. He's got his own thing.
Yeah, he doesn't need you.
He's got right.
He does it.
And I said, if you do it, something will go wrong. Well, guys, I was in the audience, and if someone Irish is watching this, they'll know this is fact. One of the mics
Yeah.
came off a tom. I think it was his second tom, and Dave is crushing it. And this guy I know went to come to it, and he went, "It's okay." Dave played with one hand, worked on his mixer, fixed it. He did it all. He did it all. So
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
self-teching, and I respect Dave for that a lot. His
Yeah.
sound is phenomenal.
Yeah, it sounds like a common thread in everything you're saying is you really got to get to know the drummer. If you can. If you
I
have the
think so.
luxury of that, you
have
really
a,
do.
If you have a moment, I did something with. I was at a Dublin music show,
Mm-hmm.
and John Blackwell, who I had a lot of respect for as a player,
For sure.
he was doing a couple of clinics in Dublin. Then he was going to do this trade show, and I was there at the trade show, just there, same again, just there, and I could see him. So I said, "There's John. Well, he's not ready for his thing yet, but he's there already, sound checking."
Yeah.
So I'd known John, so I was making my way over to him, and John was not happy. And, well, he ended up in a situation where he didn't even have a drum key for this Tama kit he was playing. Of course, I'd one on me, and
Uh-huh.
probably had three on me,
Yeah.
I happened to have the one that came with the Iron Cobra in my pocket.
Yeah.
And I was like, I went, okay. So I've been around John a few times. I mean, we're talking about a supernova drummer here.
Yeah.
And I know he gets in the zone. I knew he'd get in the
Mm-hmm.
zone before he play. I saw it in Germany. I saw it in LA. I didn't want to bother him because once he gets going, he's
Yeah.
a phenomenal player. I was like, oh, how am I going to approach this? I didn't want to. Hey, do you remember LA? Do you remember?
Right. No.
Yeah.
I'm like,
He's game time, like pump up music's playing, like he's ready to go.
he really is, So I said, I'll let him see me. Not that he'd recognize me because he gets very focused. So I position myself like between, if you imagine, him behind the kit, the crash cymbal and the first tom. And I don't know, I just postured myself as if to say, I'll help, I can help you out. I don't know. There was no words.
Yeah.
And, you know, he stood up and I went round and fixed his pedal. And he went, oh, I said, would you like this? And he goes, yeah, do. And then I kind of ended up not taking over, but helping.
Yeah.
And he got through it. And
Wow.
that's
Yeah.
that. Did the same for Mike Tirana, who's just a great guy. Kind of ended up with that.
Yeah,
Just
that-
being there.
Just being there and then testing the waters, being like, okay, are you cool if I take a step closer, taking
yeah.
that step, and then gaining that approval to go a little bit further and a little bit further.
Absolutely.
And it's all about respect. It's all about respect.
You know, I mean, John's, he was great. But I knew how his personality was.
Do you? It sounds like you know other techs and stuff. Do you? You know, if you get a gig, how connected is that world of drum techs?
It's pretty connected, but what does happen is if what I do is I just try and service East Coast. I don't travel. So
Right.
if someone's coming through, I'm happy to help her. Some of it's just over the phone, you know, say, hey, I'm gonna be near you and I'm playing this fair. I mean, I said, you've got what you need. I'll come.
Right.
You know, you don't need me. It'll be fine.
Sure.
Because certain venues require, you know, different things, and usually the guys have their guys anyway.
Right.
And even if they don't have a guy that works for them full time, someone will get them someone.
Mm-hmm.
So, also what I mean is when there's downtime, there's downtime. So you have to be proactive to say, I'm available,
Right.
because there's lots of people that actually take multiple instruments. Friends of mine worked on Blue Man Group, and they would do all the instruments.
Okay.
Right, so there'd be a musical instrument tech. So they'd
Right.
tune up the guitar, tune up the sitar, I think they used to use one of them,
Yep.
keys, and drums. So, and that's not me. I'm not tuning your guitar, you
Yep.
know. So those guys are great because, you know,
They can do it
they're
all.
multifaceted
Yeah,
and multi-talented.
for sure.
And there's matinees and there's 3 shows a day or whatever. Those guys are able to turn it around. So they will be full-time in the theatre. But, you know, a lot of techs, it changes all the time. COVID messed a lot up, and a lot of things were cancelled, and some guys never came back from that. So it is very connected.
Yeah.
But just like the nature of the job, you're in the dark a lot.
Sure.
You know, I'm a bit more outgoing, more proactive about my own career, and
Yeah.
I care about other guys' careers. If I'm not doing something, I want to know what you're doing, so I'll reach out to whether it's Robbie Cope or Larry Crow. He's out with Toto, great drummer. You got to talk to
Okay.
him sometime.
Yeah.
I'm his #1 fan. Great drummer, great tech. You know, these are guys who've been doing it forever. He tech for Vinny, tech for Simon. You
Yeah.
know, I'd if I could afford him, I'd have him tech for me.
Yeah.
He's that good.
Yeah.
So there's
to take the
guys
pressure
out
off.
there who are that good, that have been doing it
Yeah.
for a long time.
Let me ask you this. This will be my last question. I'm super interested. That's why I keep firing it at
No,
you. But
please, yeah,
but
sure.
so how big or famous do you think you need to be to have a drum tech? Like
I
what's,
don't think you need to be famous at all. I think you need to be busy, and I think you need to be particular.
There you go.
Because there's guys, man. There's guys who are doing Disney songs. There's guys who are doing cruises. There are guys doing stuff that we hear that are unrecognized.
Right.
And I get excited about that, about coming across someone who played at the Chinese State Circus, and I find my way in there. I'll find a way in.
Yeah.
And I get to talk to them and say, that show was great. And you find out they're these monster drummers. Or they're doing doing that.
And they're not famous.
Not famous,
They're-
no. I mean,
Yeah.
I think a lot of them, if the guys I know who, I think I know what you mean. Like, for instance, Larry from U2 and I went to the same drum teacher.
Okay.
And we both went different directions. I'm still trying to be a Jedi on the drums.
Right.
I'm still working on it every day. I didn't play yet today. I came straight here, but I was thinking about it all day.
Yeah.
Had a quick look at my drum kit before I come out.
Yeah.
You know, I looked at it like it
Wow.
makes me that happy. And Larry went to the same
Yeah.
teacher. I think I went the whole way. I was 8 years. I was many years with John, and the later years I was helping him out, and I just wanted to be around him. Well, Larry wanted to be in a band, and he formed U2. it's just ridiculous. He never wanted to, work on chops per se. He wanted to be in a band.
Right.
So some great drummers, and I do think he's a great drummer, are in bands and in situations we're not even aware of.
Right.
Not even, it wouldn't be possible to know them all. But to have a drum tech, if you're busy and you know your sound, and it means you're going to take the pressure off me to be able to do
Yeah.
the times I've had help,
Right.
I definitely play better. Do you play better if your kit's set up for you?
Yes.
I do. I definitely do. And
Yes. And as a
There
matter
you
of
go.
fact, it was just a
play
few
better.
weeks ago. There's this place in Marietta that I play called McCleary's.
okay.
And now they have a house kit. And I think that
And they just got it, so
they
it's still
just
really,
got it.
really
And
nice.
everyone's talking about it.
Yeah.
everyone's talking about it.
We don't
Now-
have to move our drums.
And those same people are going to destroy
And the guy-
it.
Yes.
And the guy that runs the sound, he's a drummer too, and he's a customer. And I was one of the first bands to play on the set here.
Oh, that's great.
And I was so happy to not have to like set up my there was no pressure.
Yeah.
And I realized then that part of the pressure was the anticipation of I have to carry my stuff in.
Yeah.
I have to set it all up. There was
tough.
none of that. I brought my cymbals in, and I had my cymbals, I had my pedal, and I had my throne, and of course my sticks, just in case.
Your
like-
whole rig.
yeah, but everything else was perfect. They had a DW 5000 pedal. I just put my cymbals on, and I was the first person to pack up, and I was ready to go. I was asking the other guys in my band if they needed help. For a
That's
change.
awesome.
Which has
And you
never
had
happened.
you had
Yeah.
like an hour at least free.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
I
you
was
just
so
stepped
relieved.
on and played. And yeah, so I don't think I think maybe you could attribute the cost of having
Right.
someone. Because some guys are on a retainer.
Yep.
Sure.
Abe, I believe, is on a retainer with Paul McCartney.
Mm-hmm.
So that's great. Great for Paul, great for Abe. That's a perfect, if there's such a thing, situation. So he's not going to be on downtime. And the downtime that Paul would have, he can do records for people and still know that he has that great gig. So there's that whole commercial, financial,
Yeah, there's that
contractual
element.
side of it.
For sure.
And you get calls to do things. All of us get. I get offered things a few times a year. Gets less and less because of the nature of how I've built my life. I'm a home guy. I'm able to do all my music from where I am.
Yeah.
An hour and a half from here, and I choose not to go crazy around the world. And I've been offered it a few times, and we pass it on, of course. But the issue people need to know is when you're on downtime, you have to let people know, hey, I'm available. I remember a good friend of mine in Ireland saying, you have to put your hand up and let people know you're available because they're not going to
Yeah. it's
think of
that,
it.
that old saying: if
Right.
you don't ask, you won't get it.
Maybe,
Yeah.
maybe Adams, he's doing well enough with his store. He's too busy. You say, no. I have a couple of hours a month I can put to being in another band. And I thought that was good advice. This guy,
Yeah.
has been on huge tours.
You have
and
to ask. You have to
He,
ask.
he has to put his hand up to say, hey,
Sure.
I'm available for work. It is work at the end of the day.
Yep.
For sure.
And often crew, catering, even the guys who do the loaders who push the boxes in, I always chat to them and
Yeah.
I see them because I know sometimes they do it to be close to the band that maybe they're working for, and they don't have any more responsibility than loading in, and we're all part of it. We're all part
it.
of this whole machine.
It's the ecosystem. It
Yep.
really is, and
The
each
store,
band has
everything.
it. Each band is their own small thing, but then that expands out to, other groups, which very closely relates to shops, and community, and then that ties back into how all these artists got started learning in the first place.
Yeah, and one kink in it or one break in the chain along the way can break someone's confidence and say, I don't want to be part of this, because it's already hard.
Yeah.
So I think techs, good managers, good publishers, anyone that's got your corner to make you do what you do better is valuable.
Yeah.
The drum tech role has expanded far past what I'm capable of doing. I'm okay with that.
And a lot of drummers, are using electronics now too, and you have to be well adapted to oh, okay, he's using this Roland or this Yamaha. Like, you got to know how to go in and work all those features. And
Yep.
Yep.
if something goes down, you need to be able to fix it.
Yeah,
So,
backups and stuff
yeah.
like that, and contingency protocol.
Sure.
Whether it's electronic drums, a lot of the drummers start the shows now. They run the clicks.
Mhm.
It's fantastic.
It's not
Uh,
just going in and making sure the drums are tuned. There's
Yeah,
so
no.
many more levels to it.
But
No.
hey, we're talking gear. We're about to jump into our next segment here called Hall of Fame, where
Awesome.
we're gonna dive into more gear. So hold that thought. Hall of Fame.